What's up, folks? We are back again. Review time. Zack is unavailable. He is currently walking a trail between states to do penance for moving to a state where the baseball team has a racist name. But I have
also paying penance for turning apart his Lego sets and for some reason carrying them in separate pieces.
Of course, Nazario would be here to ring Zack out for his crime of breaking down Lego sets, which, as we all know, are collectibles that you put on a shelf and never touch. They're not designed to be played with.
Well, you clean them.
Of course. The dried air containers, so you don't have to touch them.
Yeah. A little bit.
Little bit. And I needed somebody to come on to do a review of the new Pixar film, Luca, streaming on Disney+. And who better than Nazario Montenegro, whose partner was on the last review that Zack didn't show up for.
Nice. Let me guess. The Conjuring.
It was The Conjuring 3, which is famously, if we talked about the fact that you, weirdly, as a horror fan, have not seen the most mainstream horror franchise of the 21st century.
I have seen the weirdest shit, but like the main stuff, nah.
We actually had a discussion about this, the fact that you're like this weirdo who's like seen the 39th most popular horror movie of the year, but not the first most popular horror movie of the year.
Yeah, now I want to watch that now.
But let's get started with a little bit of a non-spoiler section. We always like to do this to talk about, just like give our audience a general idea of like, if you haven't seen this movie, if you're debating seeing it, like what would we say? I'm sorry, what would you say to somebody who came to you and said, should I see Luca?
If you have children and you want to have a nice time, shorter time, it's not one of the longest ones, you will have a nice time with Luca.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not going to be challenging. It's not going to be thought-provoking or life-changing. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I would say that, like, don't go into Luca expecting top-tier Disney, top-tier Pixar. This is not a top-tier Pixar film. This is kind of a fun, just kind of romp through a fun world with some cool characters. It doesn't have a lot to say. Some of the, you can always go back to Pixar films and be like, this is the one about friendship, and this is the one about dying, and this is the one about, like, there's a lot of ones that have a deeper meaning. Luca is a little bit more just about, like, I guess the general meaning is like differences, and we should be friends despite our differences, and we should accept our differences. But like, it's more than anything just kind of a fun movie. You got some sea monsters. It's in Italy. There's pasta.
I guess maybe acceptance that people can be different.
Yeah, I think that's the general theory. But like, it's just a fun Pixar. It's a fun Pixar movie. It's streaming on Disney Plus for free. You don't have to spend any money on it. That's probably like the best argument for watching this is you'll have a good time and you don't have to go out of your way to watch it at all.
Actually, it kind of makes sense that they dropped it for free.
Yeah.
But it didn't make sense to me that they dropped Soul for free because that movie was amazing. So, I mean, I would easily pay Premiere Access or whatever for Soul. But if that was the case with Luca, maybe not.
Here's the thing. I don't think the three movies that most recently have kind of like Onward they just threw on Disney Plus really quickly. Soul they went straight to, and Luca they went straight to with. I don't think any of these movies do particularly well box office wise, even if you put them in a world where we had full theater access. Like even if you put them in a 2015 summer, I don't think any of these movies do particularly amazing. I think they'll do well because they're Pixar movies, but I don't think any of them will be that impressive. I think they would all kind of fall into like the $500 million range, but not the range where I think Disney is losing an extremely large amount of money on them. These aren't Incredibles 2. This isn't Toy Story 4. This isn't Finding Dory. These are not the ones that are going to make $1 billion.
I mean, I would like to think that people will go watch Soul and pay for watching more than once, but reality is you're probably right.
Soul might be the least good for kids Pixar movie ever. Like it has a real it's not good for kids. Or at least it's weird in a way that I feel like kids are not going to enjoy. With that being said, we're going to jump to our spoiler section. Anyone who has not seen the film, you can jump right off. Come back later after you've seen it. Let's jump into spoilers. So Luca is a tale of two boys who are sea monsters who go up under the land, go to a small town in Italy, and get involved in this weird triathlon thing where it's swimming, biking, and instead of running, they decide you have to eat pasta, which is So I was like,
Hilarious.
I'll
That's
take
funny.
that leg of the I'll take that leg of the race.
Yep.
um,
By the way, the pasta that Massimo, the parent of Julia,
yeah.
does, like the first one he does, like I don't even remember the Italian name for it. The pesto one looks so fucking delicious. Like
Oh, it looks
that
amazing.
thing made me hungry.
And I would say this is like a good thing to say. This movie is great. It looks great. It's super
Yes.
vibrant colors. It is gorgeous to look at. All the creatures look really cool. The town looks really fun. All the pasta looks really good.
It's actually a very European style of animation.
It
Uh,
is.
we in when I was a kid in the 80s, because I'm old, we used to get like a lot of animation from Asia and Europe here for TV shows, and they all have a very distinct style. Most people know what anime looks like and why what doesn't really look like anime, but the European style looks like this. Like you see the characters, you see when they do the exaggerated expressions, but it's not the same as anime. It's
Mhm.
more rounded, cuter. That is European animation style. This is a really Italian movie.
Yeah, it's cool how they clearly took an effort to be like, let's make sure that if we're making a story in Italy, that it's not just the Toy Story character look with characters in Italy. Like they clearly tried to adapt their animation style to their surroundings. I think that's very successful. I think it looks really good. I will say, I think the first criticism you can bring up, or at least discussion point, is this is a story that has been told 100 times before. Sea
Fair.
monsters, parents are scared of the land, parents are scared of something. This is a pretty common story of like acceptance and fear of differences. Like I think in some ways that might be one of the reasons it doesn't get to the heights that some others have gone to. It's just like the best version of the story is a story we've heard 100 times. It's sort of Little Mermaid. It's sort of a lot of other things. It's enjoyable, but like I don't know. It was interesting to watch a Pixar movie be less unique than I feel like they usually are. I feel like even at the worst or the best of times with Pixar, they do something unique and interesting that you haven't seen before in animated movies. And this
Yeah.
does feel a little bit more like things we've seen before.
That's the thing. I think it also carries the weight of actually being a Pixar film.
Yeah.
Like I was talking with my wife about this because she didn't like it as much as I did. But when you go to watch a movie and you see the Pixar logo in front of it, you have an expectation. You expect that it's something that's going to be significant, maybe transcending. It's something you're going to carry with you. It's going to have more weight than an animated programming for kids should.
Yeah.
And this time it didn't. It has happened before. There's like two or three movies from Pixar that are like this. But I feel like if the movie was from any other studio other than Pixar, it would probably don't get that complaint. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying here and saying this movie is bad. I'm saying that like it's a good movie. I'm certainly not going to criticize it for that. I just think that's a statement, and maybe it's not a criticism of the film, more just a statement about the storytelling they're using. It's just like the idea that this is a story we've seen before. So I think a lot of people are going to be maybe less blown away by it than they would have by something else. And in some ways, I don't think even if this was a Disney animated film, people would be that blown away by it because of the nature of the base story. I think people have been like, I've seen this before, and I'm not as surprised or impressed by it as I would have been by like, oh, you made toys come to life, or you did Inside Out or something. You know, there's other ones that Pixar have done
Yeah.
where it's like, yeah, I haven't seen that in other
I also
places.
think this is Pixar is trying the new generation of filmmakers because the Andrew Stanton, Phil Doctors, Brad Bird, Pete Doctor, sorry, and Brad Bird are like kind of on the outs. Like they are moving on. They're not gonna be directing movies anymore, or like as common as they used to. They're more like a producing thing, and they are trying some new directors. They have the guy who did Coco, and I think he also did Toy Story 3,
No, I
maybe.
think you're thinking 4 is Josh Cooley. I think you might be. Are you thinking of
Yes,
Cooley?
no, but Leon Chris, I think he did 3 and also Coco, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I believe you're correct there.
And now this guy is called Enrico something, Casarosa, I think, which is definitely a new one. So they are kind of like trying stuff out. And I'm glad that they let the Italian guy made a movie that is very Italian feeling. The one thing I would complain about is like he could have gotten more Italian actors for it. It's like it's weird because when they did Coco, they went out of their way to get a lot of Mexican, Spanish speaking people for every role. But this one, not so much. Most of the Italian actors in this one are usually in the B and C tier characters. Like all the main characters are Americans, basically. It's a little weird, but it is.
Yeah, there is there was something else that came up to me when I was watching this, which is that I do think a criticism of this film is that it does feel like it doesn't. There are times where it feels like genuinely Italian, and there are times where it feels stereotypically Italian. There's a lot of moments in this movie where I'm like, you're making a lot of like Italian archetype caricatures, like jokes about pasta, and like sort of like there's definitely moments where like even just the way that they're speaking doesn't sound like genuine Italian people. It sounds like an American version of what an Italian character would sound like. And maybe that's just, the fact that you have a bunch of creatives that are American, that you're working on this. But there was parts where I'm like, this does not feel as genuinely Italian as Coco felt Mexican.
Exactly.
And part of that may have just been Coco has the mystical elements, but the mystical elements are built into the Mexican culture that already exists. This is not built into the Italian culture. They've got like sea monsters and sea monsters coming on land. I'm sure there's some sort of tale in basically every society that exists with sea monsters and something like that. But this does not feel as...
I would say most sea communities, like most towns that live off fishing,
Ireland
like
has one.
Close to the ocean, have stories like that.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel as tied into the culture as Coco does. And that might be the reason that they play with a little bit more stereotypes than you'd see in other places.
Of the signs of that, I actually do enjoy a lot like I said, the European style of animation. But the weird thing is, for me at least, that I think I enjoyed more the human designs than the sea monster design. Which I think the sea monsters, it's not that they look bad, it's just they're colorful. I like that part, but there's something on the way they are composed that I was like, I would have made different choices, I guess, is what I would say.
I think part of that is that they designed the sea monster characters so that the transitions from sea monster to human would not be as jarring for a child audience. And I think that's why the sea monsters always look like people with some makeup and like a couple fins layered on top of them. They don't look as like, I think if you were to buy fully into it, you would have made them look like sea monsters so that the change between person and them was sudden and sort of shocking, versus like, I think this movie does not want to play with the body horror of switching back and forth between them. And I think that's why you get sea monster characters that are somewhat toned down and kind of just look like people dressing up.
But they do milk a lot that little water can transform them. Like they find every single conceivable way you can get wet in dry land.
Dew, water falling on them, rain. Like you're right, they do. They really like they clearly like that joke of like the sudden jumping. I think they overplay it a little bit because there are points in the film where like, how has nobody noticed that they keep changing? They've changed like 15 times. At some point, somebody would see something.
I mean, the cat sees them.
The cat sees them. The cat knows what's up.
I like
the cat's great. The cat's great. So like another big thing about this is that this is a cast that's not that famous in comparison to a lot of Pixar casts. If you look, especially like, I mean, I guess Coco does something similar where Coco does not have a particularly famous cast, but a lot of
I would differ a little bit with you there because the Coco cast is actually very famous in Latin America.
You're right. That's a good point. Which is that
Benjamin Brad and I forgot his name. Motorcycle Diaries. Gabriel Garcia Bernal, very famous.
Yeah. That's true. It is. You're right. That's more famous in a non-white American context. Luca is interesting. So let's do a little run through the cast. We'll talk about the characters. So the two main boys are played by Jacob Tremblay, who I'm not going to lie, I don't think I would.
The kid from Room.
The kid from Room,
and Good Boys.
Yeah, who has I think if we're going to be honest, kind of career spiral a little bit. like I think Room came out and people were like, he should get an Oscar nomination. And if you look at his career over the years
And
since
then
then,
he did Wonder.
he did Wonder and the world famous The Book of Henry. Nazario, have you seen The Book of Henry?
Yes, I have.
That is the
That
most
is awesome.
insane film I've ever seen. I think like
that movie is fucking bonkers.
He's gonna voice Flounder in The Little Mermaid.
Okay. Great career choice.
Yeah. So he plays the main character, who's Luca, who's the sea monster that wants to he's curious about the world, and his parents are all scared. He herds goatfish. That's a pretty funny moment where he has to like herd at the seafloor, but he's herding fish instead of like,
Oh yeah.
Herbivores. Good moment. The other kid is played by Jack Dylan Grazer, who is probably best known to people as Freddie Freeman from Shazam.
And the kid from Stranger... No, it's not Stranger Things.
It.
He's from It. He was in both It movies.
Which kid is he again? I'm trying to remember which one he is. He's
the one that breaks his arm and gets really like looser on his arm. And then he changed it to Lover.
Oh, he's the one that... He's like the one... He's one of the few people in the cast whose older version is not famous.
Yes, true. That is true.
He's like, you're like, some people get,
and he gets to die.
Jessica Chastain and James McAvoy, and he gets somebody you've never heard of. I feel like they're fine in the film. I'm not out here claiming that these are great voice performances. I think they kind of do what they're asked to do, but I also think that, they're just given a kind of... They're not necessarily given a lot to work with emotionally or like anything complex. A lot of it's just like, hey, let's hang out and drive Vespas and eat pasta. And like, I think they do what they're asked to do, but I don't think they're necessarily asked to do a huge amount.
I don't think the girl who plays Julia is done anything.
No, I don't believe so. I can look that up for you. Her name is Emma Berman. She's the daughter of the fisherman. And she might be one of the better performances in the film, if we're being honest.
That's true. She's actually more natural, I feel.
Yeah, I think she's just... Yeah, she feels like a character come to life. The other two at times feel like people reading lines in a booth. They don't always necessarily feel like people talking.
Out of the two main characters, I would say Luca feels the more innocent, but Alberto feels like the more real. Like, I could see a kid basically living on the street, which is the equivalent of this. Has no parents, has to fend for himself. I think the Jack Dylan performance was a little more accurate, to use a word, to the situation.
Yeah, I mean, he's also the character that clearly is... He's not just doing this because it's impulsive teenage thing and he wants to go see the world. He's the one who has like, a lot of... He got abandoned. He has clearly a lot of insecurities and feelings that are backing up that. The local bully, he's kind of the villain, is some comedian from Italy. So
Visconti.
Yeah, he's pretty funny, but also feels like...
He's actually an Italian actor.
He is actually...
He's new.
He is new. He's mostly a comedian. He has very few credits. He has a lot of like credits as himself in Italian like TV specials and stuff. He's kind of fun in his role, but also really does feel like a character we've seen in like 3 other Pixar movies. The kind of boisterous bully is a little bit of a trope at times with them.
And he's actually a big stereotype of a character.
Yeah, you're right. He is really. The parents of Luca are played by Maya Rudolph and Jim Gaffigan. Yeah,
they're fine.
But it's again, weird. They cast quite. There might be the most famous people. They might be the most famous people in the thing, and they cast them as 2 characters that are like not really involved very much for at least like a third of the movie.
That is true. They basically disappear for a while until they decide to go look for Luca.
And then they come up on land and they're looking for Luca, and they're looking for Luca is just more of the joke about water.
Getting people wet.
It really becomes the entire bit. It's like they're walking around and throwing water on people.
It's a one joke.
It's a
but it is a funny joke, at
it's a
least for
good
the first 20 times.
it's a good joke, and then you start wondering something at one point. You're like, why has no one been like, why are these people constantly dumping / shoving children into water? This feels like somebody in the village might have a problem with this.
Oh, were you able to tell who was voicing the uncle who comes from the depth?
Yes, I was able to during the moments.
As soon as I heard it, I was like, "Oh, is it?" And then I looked it up, and yep,
yes,
got
that
that
might be
voice.
that. He's really funny in his like 2 scenes. I
Yeah,
actually really like him in it. It's Sacha Baron Cohen playing this uncle who comes from the depths. So like, there's a joke where his heart stops because there's too much oxygen in the water, and you have to punch it. And he just keeps talking from exactly the same place he left off.
he looks like his design is it's meant to revoke the what is the ankler? Is that the full ankler fish? The
It
one
might be
who has
the
I
one that
think
has
it's
the
an
lure.
angler that
It's
has
the,
the
it's the
light thing.
yeah, it's called the angler fish. There's
Angler. That's
these
it.
deep
I
sea
was
fish. They
thinking
have
angler.
this lure on the top of their head that's this light, and essentially the idea is you wave the light, dumb fish go up to it, and it eats them.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool creature, and I thought it was a good moment in the film. Although, like the idea that like your parents are, I guess, somewhat created the idea like your parents are sending you away, and their way of sending you away in a fish world is to send you to the deep with your uncle.
Where you
Um,
open your mouth and you get the whale carcass. It's inevitable.
That's a pretty good bit. Pretty good. He's just talking about, oh, you just stick your tongue out, you stick your mouth up, and you just get the whale carcass. Um, yeah, and then there's just like a couple other characters. There's like people running the Porter Race Cup.
I like the girl's dad, who is uh, who is a one armed character, which was an odd choice because we kind of were expecting like the twist, like why does he have one arm? Did a sea monster cut his arm off or something? And then when they finally addressed it, he's like, nah, I was born like that.
Honestly, I prefer that to what I thought they were going to do, which was tell us that it was the sea monster. Because then there was like, I thought that was like, please don't do that, because then it's going to cause extra conflict and make it harder to resolve this in a way that doesn't have them get chased back into the sea. Yeah, I like him. I think the thing that we're just coming back to is like, we both like this film, but these performances are not. This is not super memorable characters or super
No,
memorable performances. I don't think this movie will do very well at all with toy sales. I don't think there's going to be a lot of kids who are like, I have to get these characters. I don't think kids are going to remember the characters.
the only thing I can imagine if they make a plushie that you can flip over between the kid and the monster, that might get some attention. But other than that, it's one of those things that you're gonna remember that you liked it, and people will ask you questions about it, and you will not remember a single thing. Like, well, there were monsters from the water. And what was their name? I don't know. Luca. The other one, Pepe, or something.
I know it is.
There was a bully, and they raced or something, and ate pasta. That's it.
It is really a movie that's just like the stakes are very low in comparison to
Yes.
some Pixar. Like the worst thing that could happen in this is like there's the constant idea that like the fishermen and the villagers want to kill a sea monster, but they seem so inept at it throughout the film that you never really start worrying about the sea monsters getting hurt because they literally can't catch them ever. They can't see them half the time. They throw harpoons at them. They don't even get anywhere close. Like the film is just like it has really low tensions, really low stakes, but also at the same time
There's
doesn't have a lot
one
to say.
scene. There's the one scene that I actually felt, and the way it was done too. It was like the lighting changes, everything, the framing changes. Is when Alberto gets fucking sick of it and he decides like I'm gonna show her the truth, and he jumps in the water and he stands up. The way that the camera looks down up from him, is to show him as a monster. They want like that shot to be the monster shot. And
Mm.
the sky turns like purple or like
Reddish, yeah.
purplish red, and then the way he's betrayed by his friend, which honestly I think that was the most significant moment of the whole movie because I think the message is that these two boys are friends. Like they found each other and they have these ideas and they share common things, and their friendship should be basically the most meaningful thing for them. And Alberto feels like Luca is letting him go for this other girl and this other world that he doesn't want to know anything to do with that. He wants to do his thing, but he doesn't have anything to go back to either way.
Yeah.
So if he loses Luca, he's gonna actually feel lost. And the moment that Luca just looks at him and says like sea monster," like that betrayal, that
It's a gut
scene is
punch.
fucking heartbreaking.
It's a gut punch when he points at him and says sea monster, because it's also the moment where you realize if Luca has to go back to the ocean, he goes back by choice and he goes back to something else, like a family and people.
Yes.
And Adalberto doesn't have anything. Adalberto literally is on land because it's his only choice. Luke is on land because he's interested and wants to go see what's going on. Adalberto doesn't have another choice. He doesn't have
That
a
is the
family.
one thing that my wife has issues with other realistic things in a sea monster movie. But the one thing I have an issue with is that he forgave him way too easy. Like I feel like the relationship they developed in that movie, at the point they were, that betrayal, he should not have like turned around so easily. I think he goes to apologize. They have their falling out and whatever, but in the end, he comes back way too easy. I think that actually should have hurt him deeper than I feel they did in the movie.
Yeah,
Again, it's a movie, so
I don't think they dwell on the emotional beats as much as they could. I also think like if the sea monsters were actually scary, it would be more interesting, some of these moments, because it is a
yeah,
little goofy at times where you're like sea monster and everyone's scared of these sea monsters that look like brightly colored birds. Like they're not a particularly
yeah.
terrifying or scary thing. So even like when they transform back, it's like, why are we scared of these things? Like they don't ever really sell that particularly effectively. And yeah, I agree. They don't spend enough time um, dealing with their fallout of like the betrayal. It's just kind of happens, and they kind of just move on.
Just to not leave people hanging, my wife had an issue with how the movie ended when he
Okay.
gets the surprise that he goes to school,
Yeah. Okay.
and my wife is like, "Come on, man! What parent is gonna let his kid go to another town where people are gonna hate him because he's different?" And he didn't even pack a bag. He's wearing the one shirt and the one short, and he just fucking took a train and by. That's nothing. Never gonna happen in real life. I was like, yeah, but they're sea monsters, man.
I,
Relax.
there is a point though. I think there with what she's saying in that the fact that this one small village has accepted these two sea monsters, or like what is it, six sea monsters or something by the end,
Yeah,
it doesn't. They're right. That does not necessarily mean that they're going to a larger place that they're instantly going to be accepted. It is an interesting ending in terms of it almost makes you think they're like, do they want to do Luca too? Is that a thing? I wouldn't think it would be a thing because I just are people. I don't think people are going to be clamoring for a sequel to this. Typically, Pixar movies get sequels because the love for the first one is just like so over the top. Um,
but not that many have had sequels. Like four. Wait, Finding Nemo, Monsters Inc., Toy Story, Cars,
Incredibles.
Incredibles. Five.
It's like five. It's like five. Yeah. I don't know. It is an interesting ending because it does feel like they almost want to set something else up, but I don't know. I also think that
I
like
don't think so.
part of it
I
is
don't think
like
it's gonna happen.
yeah, I would agree. I also don't like I don't know like what you should do. I don't know how you end this movie because it doesn't have anything big to say overall. Like it doesn't have a big message. So you don't need to like the typically Pixar films end on like the core message of their film and this doesn't really have that, so they kind of just he's going off to into the greater world to be accepted and like they do kind of it's a little bit tacked on. Like it's not necessarily the most interesting or unique way they could have ended it. Do you have final
I,
thoughts on Luca?
uh, I am famously a movie apologist because I overrate things. Mike Hanley does it too, but nobody gives him as much shit as me.
That's not true.
Well,
I give Mike Hanley a lot of shit for it. I just make fun of him constantly.
my first instinct was to give this movie 4 out of 5, which I did. I did rewatch half of it today. I did not watch the whole thing, so I didn't relog it. But yeah, it's probably more 3.5.
Yeah, that's
Like
right. That's where I ended up on it.
so, I guess if people are telling you that it's a bad movie, just say Silencio Bruno and watch it and make your own mind.
I absolutely agree with that sentiment. It's a fun film. It's not groundbreaking, but I don't think anyone will have regretted the 90 minutes it takes to watch it.
Yes,
So
exactly.
it's always a fun time. And before we go, we wanted to reveal our Pixar rankings because we now have 24 Pixar films. I would also want to talk about tiering for Pixar films. I have like an elite tier. I have like a very good tier. I have like a good tier, and then I have like a meh tier, and then I have like a bad tier. But let's start at the bottom. I'll go 24. You go 24. Then you can go 23, and I'll go 23. My
Okay.
24 is Cars 2. I really don't like Cars 2. I think this movie has just the most ridiculous plot, and I think the biggest problem with the film is not the plot. The plot could work. The problem is Mater is the worst Pixar character, and it's not particularly close. He's unbearable to watch. He's so annoying. He's uninteresting. It's just a stupid character, and I just wanted to stop.
My 24 is Cars 3.
Oh wow, you going Cars 3 last? All right.
That movie let me down twice, and in significant ways that bothered me. Everybody was expecting something to be the comeback for Cars 3 after the car crash that was box office for Cars 2 and reviews. It was like the first ever rotten Pixar movie, and I don't know if it's still the only one. I think it might be. But the first teaser they did, where the cars look very realistic and you get the injury with Lightning McQueen, and you figure that the movie is going to be about that. You know, like he's done. He made a massive inside crash. He cannot race ever again. Awful. It's going to be a sad movie. No. He immediately gets fixed and he immediately starts training back. So it turns into another Cars movie. And the second time it disappointed me was with the ending, where they couldn't even do that right because he decides to give up his spot for Cruz Ramirez, the girl who always dreamt of being a racer but never got the chance. He gives her the chance. So technically, she should be the one who carries the franchise forward and whatever they want to do because, you know, Lightning McQueen is a veteran. He should have retired. No, they announced that they both won because they were both in part of the race. So they have their cake and they get to eat it too. And it really just rubbed me the wrong way because basically, like, yeah, we're passing the torch, but not really. Here's McQueen. It's cool.
Interesting. All right. I had not thought about this. I might have to think about my my opinion of Cars 3, which I have enjoyed and will be higher up on my list. What's your 23, Nazario?
Cars 2.
Okay. All right, fair. We already talked about that. Do you have any takes beyond it, beyond what I said?
I do not find it as boring as Cars 1 and 3, to be honest. It's probably the one I would rewatch the easiest. Doesn't mean it's better than Cars. It's just, I guess, more entertaining in parts. I think you hit the nail on the head with the Mater thing. Mater is annoying. It's annoying fuck. It's this is the If Looks Could Kill remake in animated form. Just not as likable as Richard Grieco, I guess. And I like the mystery. I like the reveal. I even think like they were clever about how they did that part. And I really like John Turturro as Bernoulli, Francesco Bernoulli. But yeah, Mater really drags this movie down.
Fair. All right. My 23 is Finding Dory, which is a film that is a complete ripoff of Finding Nemo and with a less interesting character. I just find it really boring. I don't think this film is good. I think that like it made a lot of money because people like Finding Nemo, but it as a film is just so much of a clone of the first one that it's just I don't think it's interesting as a standalone film.
I actually enjoyed most of that movie, but I couldn't deal with the ending.
The
The part
ending
where
is
the octopus drives the car.
yeah, that's the ending gets and this is for a universe where like toys can live and feel pain, like it gets incredibly
This is
stupid
the
and bizarre.
thing. I think some movies are goofy by design, but some try to be realistic as they can. And I think the Finding Nemo movies are actually trying to be very realistic in their fish little world. The most goofy thing they have done before this was trying to go up the filter of the tank thing in the first one to block it, you know, with
Yeah.
the rolling of the zip bags into the ocean. But other than that, it's basically fish tail, and everything is something you believe a fish could do. And then you have a fucking octopus driving a car. That kind of killed it for me, to be honest. Like I had it. I had it rated higher because I do enjoy that story. Even you say it's a clone of the Finding Nemo, maybe, but I think it has its own things. I like how they don't do the bluefish. Every bluefish has the memory thing. It's just a story thing. They kind of turn that into a handicap story. I love Fred Willard as the dad. It's like it's a good story, but they ruined it with the ending. Yeah, I even like Hank, the octopus, for most of the movie,
Ed
but not when
O'Neill.
he's driving.
Yeah, the octopus driving is weird. My 22 is Cars. I think that's the least. I think it's. I have Cars 3 number one of the franchise, but not by very much. I don't hate Cars. I see why it succeeds with kids. It's got a nice. There's a little bit of heart to it, but like it's at the bottom of Pixar because that movie is trying to be nothing particularly deep or unique. It's just a Cars driving, and the car has one moment of not success, and then has to learn how to be
John
better.
Lasseter liked cars. He made a movie about cars.
It is weird that John Lasseter, who's like the famous person of Pixar, has like directed some of the worst movies in the franchise.
Fair.
What's your 22?
The Good Dinosaur,
Okay.
which I think similarly to Luca, it's a simpler story. It's a little more involved than Luca, actually. It has more development things on it, but it is weird. It is the structure of it. It's very particular, and it basically tells the like a human story from a dinosaur's point of view, where the human acts as if he is the pet. I like the concept, but I do feel that they didn't go too deep. They wanted to go with a simpler story,
Hmm.
but even there, they could have done a little more for it. I do think it has good stuff in it. I like. I really like the part where they are naming the dinosaur with the Triceratops shows up with all the birds, and he says like all the birds have the special things and special names, and they do things to protect him. It's because it's a symbiotic relationship. I really like the T Rex that are the herders, like if they were the cowboys.
Sam
I
Elliott. Sam Elliott.
I hate the Velociraptors though. I really hate
Oh
that.
yeah. You know what is good though? I don't. I think this movie is a little bit of a step down from Luca. It's still in the 3-star range for me, but I do like the circle of family and the idea of like this is your circle and these sticks are your family, and then when he actually meets the like early humans later on, I think that's kind of cute. It really drags in some sections.
Yes.
There's definitely moments where you're like, why are we being attacked by these dumb pteranodons for like the fourth time, and it gets real repetitive at moments just because it feels like they ran out of stuff to do in the film, and they just also Arlo as a lead character is maybe the most boring lead character of any Pixar film.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have a lot going on. Like his whole thing is like he's really small and kind of bad at things. And that's kind of the entire character, and they don't like he gets better at things slightly and he gets a little bit more brave, but it's not in a way that makes him particularly more interesting.
It does have a great scene though, where they eat the rotten food and they trip the fuck out of their bodies. And
That's pretty funny.
that's funny.
That was pretty funny.
Oh, by
What
the
is
way, Frances McDormand and Anna Paquin in pointless roles.
it has that is one of the ones where it's like it has famous people and they do nothing. What's your 21?
My 21 is Cars.
Okay.
I mean, just the only thing I would say, this is a. I feel like Americans might enjoy this more because it is drenched in Americana, Route 66, and the old small town thingy that it just does not appeal to me
That's
because
fair.
I didn't grow up with that culture. So
That's fair. My 21 is The Good Dinosaur, so basically you and me flop 21 and 22. Yeah, I don't really have anything more to say. It's I think there are two bad Pixar movies, which is Dory and Cars 2, and then I think that there are 3 films in the 3-star range, or actually 4 films in the 3-star range, and then The Good Dinosaur is my second.
I have everyone here is 3 or about 3.
Okay.
I gave 3.5 to Cars 2 as a joke, but it's a 3-star movie.
Okay, all right. My 20, because we said 21 is Cars 3. It's kind of fun at times. I don't hate all the characters. I think Jackson Storm is kind of interesting.
He could have done so much more, though.
Yeah, to be clear, this is a 3-star movie. I'm saying that I'm not going to give it a I'm not going to give it a negative grade because I don't think it does anything particularly bad. What is your 20?
Oh wait, they replaced Michael Keaton, so that's their third strike. They didn't bring Michael Keaton back for chick kicks in Card Street.
Well, they didn't do that, right? Yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah, it's a guy who makes voices, and it doesn't sound like. Okay, my 20 is The Incredibles 2.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a pretty low rating.
I'm not one of those guys who actually like is in love with The Incredibles. I thought it was a fun family adventure. Yes, it is basically Fantastic Four with a different skin. It is fun. It is hyper. It's very entertaining. But I think that Brad Bird was kind of asleep at the wheel with this sequel. Number one, it's way too late. Like it's way too long. Like the hype for The Incredibles went up and then went down, and then they decided to make this fucking movie 14 years later, and it decides to pick up straight where the other one ended. So it's kind of a weird thing. It feels like the one single movie. I do like one thing though, and I like it very much. I like that the Underminer is a fucking villain that actually has some weight to it. Like they at the end of the first movie, you feel like okay, it's a joke, like the Underminer. The guy's no fucking joke. It takes a lot of work to take down the Underminer in Incredibles 2. But the story itself, I don't know. I like let's make the supers popular again, but secretly not because I have this issue in my back. Like they do the flip flop with the villains.
Mm-hmm.
The concept of screensaver itself is kind of weird, and I don't feel this movie does anything particularly special with the franchise. Like it doesn't do anything that the first movie hadn't done before. The most significant thing they do is put Mrs. Incredible as the lead instead of Mr. Incredible. But in the end, it balances out and it's the same thing.
All right, I like this movie a lot more than you. I think it's a little bit messier than the first film, but I really enjoy a lot of the character stuff. I think Violet and Jack Jack get a lot more to do in this film, and that's kind of interesting. I think the other supers is
Jack Jack is way too overpowered too.
Jack Jack is awesome. Do not insult Jack Jack here. This is a pro Jack Jack podcast. I think the introduction to the superheroes is fun, even if they don't necessarily do a lot. I think the Screenslaver is an interesting villain. I agree that it's not as good as the first one, but I'm not as down on the film overall as you are. What is your 19?
Finding Dory.
Okay.
Just because of the octopus driving the car. It would be higher if it didn't have that scene.
All right. I'm about to drop a real hot take, which my number 19 is Soul, which is a film that I just rewatched and liked even less on rewatch.
God damn it, man.
I was one of the lowest people on original watch. I was at a 3.5. I dropped it to 3. I think it's 3 different movies jammed together. I think you have the sort of Inside Out style trying to explain the world first act, a ridiculous slapstick vaudeville second act with the cat, and I think the third act is underwhelming and frustrating because it feels like the end of the film should end with him passing on rather than being returned to the world of the living. I think that's more impactful. I've never understood the hype of this film. I am totally admitting I am in the minority here. I know there are a lot of people who think this is top 5 Pixar, and to me, Soul is like not the bottom, but it's second tier from the bottom. I don't love this film like a lot of people do.
I will give you the cat thing is so. But other than that, everything about this movie is better than what you make it out to be. This movie has deeper meanings about life and what life means, and how everybody has a place, and we all need to get. It doesn't necessarily has to be like a magic thing that we feel like drops from the skies and gives us. We have to develop it ourselves, even if that thing is something you didn't expect. What happens with 22. It's a movie that I think it gets better with rewatches, not worse. You are an insane person.
Got worse from him. I'm just saying. I was not that in on it to begin with, so I was on the outside of.
Have you seen the short that they made after?
No, I don't think I've seen like the majority of the shorts.
The short is actually pretty good.
All right, maybe I'll check it out. My 18 is Brave, which on rewatch I actually liked a little bit more, and it's kind of fun. I wish it picked a lane because it does a little get frustrating because it feels like they wanted to make a female empowerment story, and then at times it becomes like a goofy fantasy story. I still think it's pretty funny, and Merida's an interesting character, and I
Yes.
enjoy it. I think it's one of those ones that I think gets unfairly maligned, mostly because I feel like Brave won an Oscar and people then criticize it more harshly for that. And I think that while it's definitely not top tier Disney, I think it's an enjoyable film.
2012.
I believe so.
Oh,
My,
it beat Wreck-It Ralph. That's why people give it shit.
yeah, I mean, I also think like I don't know if it deserved that, but I also think that like criticizing movies more because they got awards always feels a little silly to me.
I find people that criticize movies because they're not what they wanted to be. It's kind of a missing of the point. This is something you are served blindly. This is not like you went to a restaurant and you picked from a menu. This is the movie. We want you to see it. You might enjoy it. Try to get what the movie is giving you instead of what you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
I think the movie would have been better with your. I mean, I like the original title better. It was called The Bear and the Bow, and they changed it to Brave. I think the story itself originally was delved more into Mordu, the demon bear, and his origin and how did that tied up with Merida. Actually, there's a short in Disney Plus called Mordu, The Legend of
Yeah.
Mordu. You should watch it too. It's actually really good. And that would have made a darker movie, and they decided to light it up a bit, and that's what we ended up with Brave. It's a movie that had had compromises along the way, but that doesn't mean it's bad. People wanted the other version of the movie. They got Brave, and they felt it wasn't good enough. It was good enough for me. I really like Brave.
Yeah. I also think it's hilarious that when mentioning the 2012 Best Animated Oscar category, you mentioned Wreck-It Ralph and not Frankenweenie.
Frankenweenie's 2011, right?
No, Frankenweenie is nominated against Brave. Frankenweenie, I think, probably my favorite of the category.
Wait, really? I thought it was 2011.
Nope, the 2012 Oscars.
Holy shit, you're right.
Yeah.
I thought Frankenweenie has lost to Rango for some reason. See, this is why I suck at trivia for Oscars.
And now you can just admit that you wanted Frankenweenie to win. It's all right.
Frankenweenie was the better one of the three, yes.
Yeah. So that was my 18. What is your 18?
Monsters University.
Okay.
This is not a bad movie. This actually none of these are bad. Like maybe the Cars ones can be qualified as bad, but most of them are just okay. This one is actually a movie that I feel is very underrated. I also measure these movies a lot by the shorts they have the accompanies them. It's a weird thing, but this movie,
it's a Nazario thing right there.
yeah, this is because they always make like a short thing that is like ties to the movie. They usually make it after and release it with another movie or release it directly to video. This is just a party movie, man. Like this is supposed to have fun. You're not. They didn't want to go forward with Monsters Inc. because you have the feeling with Boo. You have Sully having that reunion, however time later at the end of that movie. You just don't want to delve into that because whatever you give people is gonna be disappointing. Like they already have their happy ending. So they went back and they were like, yeah, they met in college and they were competitive against each other. You get some of the origins, bad guys, why they hate Sully and Mike and what happened with them, which I actually really enjoy. I like Nerdy Randall very, very much. This movie is very funny, which is something that I did not originally think the first Monster Inc. was. I think this is funnier than Monster Inc. But Monster Inc. has more heart, which is why it's higher. But I think if you just want to laugh, like if you want to watch basically Revenge of the Nerds for kids, well, you watch this movie and you're gonna have a great time. And the short that accompanies this one is a short about how they wanted to make a party in the frat of Usme Kappa and nobody showed up because they're the nerds. So what they did is they stole two doors from the door department and they put one door in their house and the other door they took it to the party that Aurora Omega Roar were having, and they started stealing everything. First they took the food, then they took the people, then everything's great. Like there's like an insane way how everything the physics of how everything is going through the door to their house because doors doesn't go directly to doors, they have to go through to a human house. So they have this couple sleeping in a twin bed with two closet doors, and then just opens. They go by and they close the other door, and the wife keeps waking up and saying like, "Honey, somebody's here. There's nothing." It's like, "What are you thinking about? Just fucking go to sleep. You're dreaming." And the final shot, which I will not ruin, is fucking money. I love that shot.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Monsters. I actually have Monsters University higher than you. I think it's a lot of fun. I think that band song, the orchestral band thing, is a real banger.
Yeah.
That song really slaps. It really makes the movie. You just feel really happy while you're watching it, and it's just really fun. And also the scare games is a really great, really fun gimmick. It's so much fun because any kind of contest like that is always fun. Triwizard Tournament, any of those things is always fun, and they just do a really cool one with a bunch of weird stuff, and then having just a lot of cool characters and some cool introductions. Good
fun fact: you know the team that cheated using the anti-stick thing?
Yeah.
George Sanderson is one of the monsters in that team, and he's the one who gets the socks stuck to him later in the other movie.
It's great. It's so much fun. So that was your 18. What about what's your 17?
17 is John Lasseter's The Box Life.
Oh wow! All right.
I mean, it's a very simple movie. The best thing about it is the unmentionable one. The uncancel in Italy guy gives a performance that is actually pretty scary as an imposing villain. He gives a speech where he explains why they have to keep stepping on the ants to control them, because they haven't realized a very important fact, that the ants outnumber them 10-1. I really find the movie okay. I enjoyed it when I watched it. I am one of those weirdos that prefer ants from DreamWorks to this.
Wow.
I know. Woody Allen as an ant. I really like that movie. I haven't seen it forever though.
But it looks like garbage. It looks so bad.
I have rewatched Box Life in the last couple of years. Like I think last year I watched it, and I felt about the same. It's an entertaining movie. It's a very small scale story, but it teaches you about acceptance and how we all can help each other and how we shouldn't let bullies take over us. Fine. I like it. It's a good movie. It's just I don't think it's that great, and the animation hasn't aged well at all. Ants I haven't seen in 20 years, but I just remember I watched them both on the same day, and I really like Ants better. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, Bugs Life is fun. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about it. I feel like it's a fun movie. It's a little higher on my list, but not I don't think we have massively different rankings on it. My 17 is Luca, which I just talked about, so we'll go ahead. My 16 is Onward, which I prefer Onward of the two 2020 films. Onward on rewatch has a little bit, I think has more heart. I like the brother story. I like the quest aspect of it. I always struggle with Pratt and Holland because I feel like it sounds like there are moments where it feels like they're characters, and moments where it feels like it's just two famous people in a movie, which is something that Pixar rarely feels like, even when they have Tom Hanks. It always feels like a character rather than a famous person voicing it. But I like Onward. I think it was fun. I think the whole quest was kind of cool, and the stuff with the dad is good, and I kind of like how the brothers grow together over time. Yeah, I liked Onward more on rewatch.
I like Onward more than you.
You do like Onward more than me. What is your 16?
My 16 is Luca.
All right, let's skip that. What's your 15?
My 15 is Brave.
I already kind of talked about it. Do you have anything else to add? Are we good on Brave?
Basically, what I talk about when you mention it, it's a movie that plays better the least you know about it because you don't have any expectations. I think that hurt the movie when it came out. People saw this incredible teaser because the teaser was incredible, and they just figured out it was going to be this giant adventure movie, and they made everything up in their heads. And when they gave them something that was way more simple than that, they just wasn't that good. It is that good. It's just not what you want it to be.
Yeah, I think it also struggles because people go, up to this point, the movies that had won Best Animated Oscar from Pixar were Nemo, Incredibles, Ratatouille, WALL-E, Up, Toy Story 3, and then it's like Brave, and Brave is kind of a step down from those other films.
Yeah.
So that was your 15. My 15 is A Bug's Life, which we've talked about, and then my 14th is Monsters University, which we've also talked about. Both fun films. That's the end. Monsters University is the end of my 3.5 star run. What is your 14?
Uh, Brave was 3.5, and I started moving to 4 stars on my next two movies. My 14 is Onward,
Okay, nice.
which I actually enjoyed more than you made it out to be, although we have it kind of in a similar range.
Yeah,
Because I really like the relationship. I really like the message in the end that maybe you want something because you've never had it, but you should probably realize that if you didn't have the one thing, you had something else in your life, especially if you have a sibling that could give you all those moments that you missed out with your parents. I have the luck that I grew up with both my parents and they're both alive at this point, so I never actually had to deal with losing direct family. Like I have lost grandfathers and great grandmothers during my lifetime, but like all my uncles are alive and all my aunts and my mom and my dad and my sister. So it's something that I don't really get to relate as much as I would like to, but I understand why this kid wanted his dad back and how he needed to go through this adventure to appreciate the fact that he had his brother all along. It's a sweet story. My kid cries every time they throw Guinevere to the rocks to sacrifice it. He really likes that bus, and I thought it was a fun adventure movie.
yeah, yeah. It's got weirdly overlooked because it happened to come out at the world's worst possible time for a
Yes,
film to be released.
I think it was the last movie I saw in theaters between that and Tenet. It was like 6 months.
I believe it legitimately came out like 2 weeks before the pandemic basically shut everything down. Like it
Yeah.
come out like late February. So that was your 14. What is your 13?
My 13 is the first of 4 stars. No, that's my other 4 stars. Monster Inc.
Wow. Okay. That's a really low rating.
Honestly, when it came out at the beginning, originally I liked it even less than A Bug's Life. Like I felt Toy Story and Toy Story 2 were really high highs, and then Monster Inc. was just a movie that didn't. I mean, also I was 20 years old when this movie came out, so it's not like it got me on the feels as a kid, but I felt it was incomplete. I felt like something was missing. And it wasn't until Finding Nemo where I really loved that movie. I was like, yeah, there's this dip between Toy Story and Finding Nemo that Monster Inc. just couldn't reach that level for me. It wasn't until I rewatched it later in life, like 2 or 3 times, I was like, okay, yeah, this movie is better than I gave it credit for at the time. But I still think it's missing something, and I cannot really put my finger on it because I have a more fun time with Monsters University. I feel this is a better film, but I do not reach the level that everybody reaches with it. Like something, just something isn't quite there.
Yeah.
So I give it.
I love Monsters Inc. I love the relationship. I kind of love the entire story. I love the stuff with Boo. It'll be much higher on my list. For now, we're jumping
Yeah.
into my 4 stars, and we start at number 13 with Inside Out, which I liked more on rewatch. I've always found that Inside Out is it's somewhat more interesting in terms of what they're talking about than it is a movie. In some ways, it's more successful as this talk about emotions than it is about than it is like just a film. I like a lots of it. I do think there are moments. I really like the first half and like the last little bit. I think there is a moment about 3/4 of the way through when everything is kind of falling apart, where it gets a little silly and a little. I wish they'd rushed. I wish they'd moved a little faster. Like I don't necessarily need as much time with Joy, like trying to get places and having everything fail on her. I think that happens a little bit too often. And in some ways, I wanted to get back to the control room because I feel like that's where stuff is going to happen. I wish it was a little bit faster paced and I wish it jumped a little bit in that moment, but it's still very good and very enjoyable.
I really like Bing Bong. I really like the sacrifice he makes because to save Riley, she had to let go of imaginary things. Uh, I have the same comments. I really like it, probably more than you because I have it higher, but it does drag a little bit. I do like though the weird stuff they have, like the place where they lock all the weird dreams and creatures, like how everybody prepares to act the nightmares and they put the filters on. And overall, yeah, I think it's a very solid effort, and I think it's it's an accessible way to reach deeper meaning for Pixar, and this is one of the ones that work the best on that.
Yeah, this to me works in the way that Soul doesn't for me. Like this to me hits the deeper meaning and tries to talk about the deeper subjects, and I think it does it successfully in the way that I don't necessarily think Soul does. My 12 is Up, which is I would like to dispel once and for all. This is not just 10 great minutes and then a bad movie after that. Yes, the first 10 minutes are amazing and a wonderful short film, but I also think it's very good as just an adventure story and a story of like, this old guy and this boy kind of, trying to find this place together, and this like imagination and exploration is just really fun.
Adventure is out there.
Yeah, I like Up. I think more than a lot of people, so that's my 12.
I like Up too. I do think it's very front loaded. Like when they give you the story with him and his wife, Ellie was his wife.
Yeah, yeah, like,
You kind of get like all the heavy-handed part in the beginning, and you get to, like appreciate Fredrickson for who he was. And I do believe that the part after it suffers a bit from it because you get the gut punch right at the beginning. But I do believe that the story is worth it. I don't particularly like Doug. I think they overplay the Doug thing with the voices a little bit too much.
that's fair.
But
That's fair.
I love Kevin, and I really like when they actually have a dog fight with little airplanes with the little dogs. The
Which they
stuff like
stole. They stole that from Wallace and Gromit, but okay.
Charles Muntz is a great villain.
He's
Uh,
actually a
be-
pretty good one.
because you don't expect him to be because of the story he has until he in his mind in his loneliness becomes convinced that they are trying to screw him. Like it's a very interesting film. I really like it.
All right. What's your number 12?
Number 12 is the first Toy Story.
Whoa, that's a crazy take.
Yeah.
Let's get excited, everyone. Lucas is a much bigger Toy Story fan than Nazario is.
The first Toy Story, 4.5, by the way, is the ranking I have for the next. Well, this is weird. I gave this one 4.5, and I gave the next one 4, and I kind of stick by that. But I don't know. The first Toy Story, I don't think it has aged the best. This is the one where Woody is the most asshole of all the asshole Woodies he has been.
Mhm.
And they toned it the fuck down. I saw the animatics with the original script. He was a giant jackass.
Yeah.
They actually like make him more likable, and they decide like to make the story more about a little bit of jealousy and that is misplaced because he wants like the moment where he throws Buzz out the window. He wanted to do it, but he didn't really do it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like instead of an actual voluntary act, he kind of has second thoughts and he regrets it, and then he kind of like fate intervenes and it happens. And the way everybody turns on Woody immediately, like all the toys turn on him like this, even though he has been with them for like ever,
Mhm.
it doesn't ring true to me. The animation is the one that suffers the most, and which is an unfair thing to judge them by because it's the first animated movie. But damn, that movie doesn't look good at all these days. It's like it has really weird spots, especially with the humans. The humans look
Yeah, the
awful.
humans are terrifying in the old ones.
Sid is a great character. I do like the whole interaction with the Sid part of the movie, and I don't know. It's a good movie, almost a great one. It just I guess it never. I was in the middle of my Disney renaissance when this came out. Like I was vibing on my Lion King, Hunchback of Notre Dame shit, and then Toy Story came, and I was like, okay, that was a fun time. And I remember even thinking like CGI, that's not gonna work. It doesn't look as good as animated. The fuck did I know?
Yeah.
But yeah, Toy Story, 4.5 stars, but it is my number 11. No, 12.
Well, I am just an unabashed Toy Story mark. I love the franchise. I actually really like the first one. I think that the animation, if you compare it to animation of the same era, it is I think one of the biggest things, if you want to look at how good the Toy Story animation is look at Toy Story, which comes out in '95, and then look at the Shrek movies from the early 2000s, and watch how much better Toy Story from '95 is versus animation from like 5, 6, 7 years later. Um,
Yeah,
and I think it's quite impressive.
I'm not a fan of Shrek, but I get it.
Its animation is real bad. It looks like a video game. Yeah, I just love Toy Story. I'm not going to go into great detail. I just love Toy Story. It'll come up later, and I will maybe sing about it. What was your 11?
My 11 is Toy Story 4,
Okay, okay.
which like I said, I think is a 4-star movie. Uh, it is good. It may not even be better than Toy Story 1. I just feel like on a vacuum, if you tell me which one of the two I prefer to rewatch, I would probably pick 4. This is a movie that nobody really needed. It's kind of a epilogue to a story that was already over. Like I do love Toy Story 3. I think that was a perfect ending to the franchise, and I actually really enjoyed that they continue it on the shorts, Toy Story of Terror and Toy Story: The Time for God and the Partysaurus wreck and the little fry thing and the Hawaiian vacation. You know, these little tidbits that tell you how the toys were doing with the Bonnie thing. I enjoy that. I didn't need another story, but and especially when they brought Forky, and I thought like, wow, that looks like shit. But they actually made me care about Forky with David Cross, and other than the song, which is actually very bad, uh, the fucking Randy Newman song for Toy Story 4 is bad.
I don't
Other than
remember.
that, this like don't make you trash, blah blah
Oh
blah.
yeah. That was not great.
Uh, yeah, I think it has a sweet ending. I actually like that they brought back Bo Beeps, and I like the way they took her story. I actually really like that short too, the short that they did like Lamp Life, which is
Mm-hmm.
basically a 5-minute version of what happened to her after she was taken from the Andy's house and till she found Woody again. The one thing I say about that short that sucks is that Tom Hanks didn't do the voice of Woody. It was his brother, but
Yep.
it's a very sweet compliment to the movie itself, and I think it had the right ending. I think that finally Woody had did what he had to do. He had to let go. He wasn't the favorite guy anymore. He wasn't the number one toy, which is totally understandable. We're talking about a girl. Why would she have a cowboy as her favorite toy? And he chose, in the end, what he didn't choose to do at the beginning of the movie, which is also kind of heartbreaking scene. It's a very strong scene to open your movie with when they lose Bo Beep because they give her away
Yeah.
and he chooses to stay with Andy. And when presented with the same choice years later, he can know he did the right. He may have done the right thing then, but he is doing the right thing now. Goodbye, partner. When he says the boss, it's a great movie, great fucking movie.
Yeah, it was actually. I was very worried about this because I loved the first three, and I was like, please don't screw this up. I actually really like Forky. I like Ducky and Bunny. I like Gabby. Gabby is actually an interesting villain in that she has a different goal from the last two people because it gets I mean, I really like 2 and 3, but you can also criticize that those villains are essentially very similar characters. Yeah, I liked it a little bit less in my last rewatch than I did liking it in theaters, but that may have just been like a momentary, like just bad moment for me to watch it in. Yeah, I really like Toy Story 4. You'll see it higher up in my list. That was your 11. My 11 is Incredibles 2. We already really talked about. I like it more than you, but it's still like a step down from the first one. And I will jump. That's the last of my 4 stars. Is number 11 Incredibles 2. My 4.5 stars start at number 10 with Finding Nemo, which is a movie I had higher ranked. I don't think my rating went down, but my ranking was higher. I really like Finding Nemo. The father and son stuff really works. All the other fish really work. Even Dory is. I think one of my biggest problems with Finding Dory is that Dory works better as a supporting character than she does as a lead, and I think that's why Nemo is just a significantly better film than Finding Dory. So that's my 10.
I love Finding Nemo. I have it higher. Like I said, I feel it's one of the most complete stories they have ever done. Albert Brooks as the Marlins, as the father, is perfect casting. He's the
Mhm.
perfect mixture of neurotic, worried daddy that doesn't want his remaining son to be lost the way he had to deal with the tragedy of the death of his wife and all his other offspring. And the adventure itself, it's so fluid. It never feels like they did this and that they did that and they did the other thing. It feels like, okay, they did this, and because of this they then this happened, and then this happened, and because of this then happened. So the story goes fluid from beginning to end. It never feels like far reaching. It's not never like a magical clue happened to meet them like where they were supposed to go, like they go through the journey, and there's just along the way there's significant things that they achieve, and it feels like a good adventure film with a rewarding ending, because he learns to be he learns that his sons need to be more independent, and Nemo gets to grow up a bit but still tell his dad that he loves him. And it's that last shot when he goes back to the school and Mr. Ray is taking him on another field trip, and he says like, "Okay, Nemo, I know you have to go." And then Nemo comes back and says, "I love you, Dad," before he leaves.
It's a very sweet movie. Very sweet. So that was my 10. What's your number 10?
My number, I have 5 stars all the way from 10 to 1, which is Up.
Okay, we kind of talked about Up. What was your 9?
Soul.
Okay, this is probably the biggest difference between the two of us. You kind of already defended Soul. Do you have more defense of Soul, or do you want to just keep
No,
going?
it's fine. I think I said my piece on it, but don't listen to this man. He doesn't know what the fuck's talking about. Soul's a great film.
My number 9 is Ratatouille, which is just kind of a really fun, wonderful story of a rat working in a restaurant. Very sweet, very cute. Like really fun to watch. I feel like Ratatouille is like one of the most rewatchable Pixar films, mostly because there's not a lot of emotional like moments in it, but it is like a really, really high quality, really fun story that you're just gonna enjoy every time. So that's my 9.
Yeah, Ratatouille is way higher for me. It's a great fucking movie. It's it's a movie about learning to accept your gift. Sometimes you get a gift that you do not know why you have it, and you get to choose why you use it for. And even though he hated his position in life, where he was the poison sniffer for the rats, he was actually fulfilling a very important role in his community, even though he didn't want to be that. It was also a curse because he could taste the garbage for what it was. So the fact that he had great sense of smell allowed him to become a good chef. The one thing that always bothered me, because it's that leap of logic. It's like I'm willing to go some places with movies, but I think they could have done something better than pull your hair to control you.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's kind of stupid. The movie is so good. Other than that, that I still gave it 5 stars, and it's one of my favorite Pixar movies. I do believe that the character of Anton Ego basically steals this movie. The guy who's the critic, voiced by is
Peter O'Toole.
Peter O'Toole.
Yeah, legendary screen
He's
actor.
like the voice. He's like the critic's voice, because when he was saying the review for the restaurant in the end, I took that and like basically he was talking to me. He was talking to the moviegoer that is always nitpicking movies and finding all the stupid shit that don't work, when you can actually just some of those times let it go and appreciate the masterpiece you've been shown. Yeah, it has a point.
Yeah, I agree. So that was my 9. My 8 is Toy Story 4, which we've already kind of talked about. I will jump back over to you. What's your 8?
The Incredibles 1.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't love it as much as everybody else. I do understand that it's a movie that probably cannot be improved on where it is, but it is the first one that to me felt a little derivative of something else, because it is basically Fantastic Four, but it does take it its own way. It makes it their own. I like how they have to learn how to deal with having powers and not being able to use them. How he wants to help people anyways, like he does, like undermining the loopholes in the insurance agency. I like the character of Syndrome very much. This movie gets dark. Like he tested a bunch of Omni droids, and yeah, it's like the movie's really good, and it's surprises you with in things that you didn't expect, like when they destroy the plane where the family is flying, and then you figure out that they have to think quick before they all die, and they use their powers in imaginative ways. It's a really good movie. It's a really really good movie. It's just not as it didn't have that extra spark that the other ones on top of it for me have.
Okay, sir. Yeah, it's very similar placing to me, very similar rating to me. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a really great superhero family story, and yeah, really great team up. Syndrome's really good. Yeah, it's just kind of like we talked about the second one. The first one is just a tighter version of the second one in a lot of ways. More streamlined, more focused at times, and just a slightly better film. Yeah, really enjoyable. That was your 8. What's your 7?
Inside Out.
All right, we talked about Inside Out. Do you have more thoughts, or you want to jump ahead?
It's fine. You can go.
Awesome. My number 7 is Incredibles, which we talked about. My number 6 is Wall-E, which is probably the most beautiful visually of all the Pixar films. It's gorgeous. It's so much fun to watch. It's
really low.
I don't think it's really low. You'll see what's ahead of it. I don't think there's anything crazy ahead of it. It's really good. It's great. I love Wall-E. I mean, this is like really hard with Pixar because you get to the top 10 and you legitimately like at some franchises list, the back half of the top 10 is like 2 to 3 okay movies. And with Pixar, it's all 10 great movies. Yeah, Wall-E's great. Wall-E's wonderful. It's my number 6.
Most people complain that the movie gets boring after the people start speaking. I do agree that it's a beautiful film to look at, and it achieves something that I don't think is very easy, which is have about 25 to 30 minutes of silence and keep everybody enthralled in what is happening, even the children.
Absolutely.
My kid just keeps going, Eva, Wally, and it's amazing. I love that Wally's design as old school tech, that Eve is designed as modern tech. Basically, she's an iPhone that searches for plants. I like how they introduce the actual humans into the movie, which is kind of weird when you see the Hello Dolly segments and when you see Fred Willard as the president of By and Large. And then how slowly they start becoming cartoonish because of all the lack of gravity, and they just keep living on the axiom. I find everything involving robots to be excellent. Thankfully, the human part is very very small. Like you have the couple that meets themselves in the axiom, and basically the captain, and that's it. So I don't understand why people complain like the human is not a strong part, because it's not even that big, and the rogue robots that help him out. I love Bernie from the short. Like I said, that complements the story. Have you seen Bernie?
I'm not.
Bernie is the robot that's only mission is to change one light that Wally breaks when he falls out of the ship. When he's flying around with Eve, he breaks one light post. The whole short is Bernie trying to fix that light. It's fucking great.
I like the cleanup robot.
And I love Mo. That's Mo, like the small one.
He's trying to clean up everything, all the tracks. It's great.
Wally is a perfect film, man. It's sweet. It's so smart, and the animation looks.
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. The first Blu-ray I ever owned was Wally.
Any of the space shots, it's as stunning as a live action film. That was my 6. What's your 6?
My 6 is Finding Nemo.
Okay, we already talked about that. Any more thoughts, or do you think
no, that's fine.
What's your 5?
My 5 is Dia de los Muertos.
Oh, okay.
This movie is the movie I have watched more than any other Pixar movie I've ever seen, because it's my kid's favorite movie. I basically know it by heart now, but it's a lovely fucking movie. The way it deals with lessons about life and death, and how it depicts that is literally how I expect Dia de los Muertos, the land of the dead, to show on the Mexican culture. Like, it's frightful, it's colorful. It's actually kind of similar to what Tim Burton did in Corpse Bride, where the real world with human life was pretty dark and gothic, but yet the land of the dead was all colorful and music filled. I like very much how they incorporate the idea of the ofrenda, that they put your picture up because they remember you and that keeps you alive. and if everybody forgets you, then finally you disappear.
Yep.
It's a very sad scene where Edward James almost has his second death, uh, because nobody remembers him anymore.
Yeah.
And the whole the whole thing about Ernesto de la Cruz, he thought he was his grandfather, and he was just a bad guy who betrayed him, and how he always chose himself, even when he thought the kid was his family, he still chose himself
It's
because he's a selfish motherfucker.
such a
Uh,
good
I
film.
I love the how the alebrijes work, like the animals that turn into these giant, beautiful golden things in the afterlife, that protect you. I like Abuela Imelda, how she was so fucking stubborn about hating music, even though she loved music because she was basically in spite of the. It's so many rich details, and all the characters work. The only ones that are basically just for fodder there are the other family members, like the uncles and the aunts and whatever that are just hanging around Imelda. They're like fine, they're filler. But other than that, man, this movie is just hitting on all cylinders. Even the abuela and when he goes back and he tries to make his great grandmother remember.
That scene
Fucking
is
sweet, man.
heartbreaking and gorgeous.
Great
Yeah,
fucking movie.
yeah, Coco is amazing, and I have it higher on my list. Coco it's outstanding. It's one of the best. It's so impressive, and just mind-boggling that they did it, and they did it in a way that was not only culturally appropriate, but like just bought 100%
And
into
they
the culture.
cast a bunch of Mexican people for it. Great
They
shit.
really did. They really did, and they clearly cared a lot about that. Um, so my number 5 is Monsters Inc., which we've talked about, and I like just a lot more than you. My number 4 is Toy Story, which we've also talked about. And then what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Toy Story 3.
All right, all right.
This one flip flops with Toy Story 2 a lot because I love them both. For the longest time, I had two as they go three below two, then I changed three above two, and then I changed it back. Uh, as much as I think Toy Story 3 is a very sweet story, it even has a bonus Totoro in it, which Studio Ghibli just extra points for you. Sunnyside, the Lotso story is amazing. How he was replaced and he became and like a bitter, angry toy, and he started lashing out to the world. I think that and is very comparable to Stinky Pete, how he was never taken out of the box, never played with, and he just never learned what it meant to be for a kid, you know.
Mhm.
And then obviously, man, the ending, which is just fucking insane, where they go to the trash chute and for a second there, for a split fucking second, I was sitting in an IMAX theater in Orlando, Florida, watching that thing, and I said, like, is Pixar going to fucking burn the toys right now? Like, there's no way they can save themselves from this. This is over. They start looking at each other, grabbing their hands, and they're prepared for it. I was like, oh my god, it's gonna happen. And then the fucking claw, boom, it's last second save.
It's a great moment.
Uh, yeah, and the way they say goodbye to Andy when they have one last playtime, dude, I was fucking in tears, man. I that is the movie I grew up with. I was 15 years old when the first one came out, and I was 30 when the third one came out. That, dude, I mean, I'm as close as Andy as you fuckers are gonna get.
Yeah, that ending with Molly is just tears. I love Toy Story 3. I have the same thing where Toy Story 3 and 2 are my favorite too, but Toy Story 3 for me is my favorite. It'll be upcoming a little bit later. What's your 3?
My Toy Story 2.
Oh, fun fact. My 3 is also Toy Story 2.
Like I said, this is the one where Woody was feeling a little left out, because you know Andy was changing. He for a while decided he wanted to be the space guy, then the cowboy one, and then he went and forgot him when he went to camp, and by accident or like whatever happened, he got stolen and put into a collector's case, and he learned more about himself. He realized where he came from. He was part of a family. He was part of this group, the Woody's Roundup. They had Stinky Pete, the prospector, and he had what's her name? Shit,
Jesse?
what's her name? Jessie, the cowgirl, and Bullseye, the horse, and how he was appreciated now the way he wasn't in the 50s, and how he could be just valued forever. he wouldn't be loved as a kid by a kid anymore, but he would be preserved for all time in a museum. And this became appealing to him, the notion that even though Andy was growing up and probably was going to forget about him, he would still be appreciated. And it has my favorite cameo in the whole fucking thing when Jerry shows up. Have you seen Gary's Game?
No.
Probably the best Pixar short ever. Gary is the old man who shows up to fix up Woody.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, his name is Jerry with a Geri.
Mhm.
Just Google Gary's Game. Great fucking show.
All right.
I think it was with Bugs Life.
It also has like the really fun bit with Buzz where he gets replaced by himself and he goes the Mexican version and like there's a lot of
the
like
Mexican version is in Toy Story 3.
is that the Toy Story 3? Okay, I'm wrong then. No, I also like a lot of 2 stuff. Yeah, 2's really good.
Toy Story 2 has other bosses that believe they're toys, and then for a while he gets it's very similar actually. He gets replaced by another. Then Sorg tells him like you're my son, and they hug and. That's
Zurg, it's fun to have the finally the payoff of Zurg because he's kind of been this villain over 2 movies and then having that happen is cool.
That's so awesome.
So Toy Story 2 is also my number 3, and then my number 2 is Coco, which is on recent watch jumped from like 6 or 7 to number 2 because I was like I love Coco and yeah, it's so good. What is your number 2?
My number 2 is Ratatouille.
All right, we talked about Ratatouille. Ratatouille is great. What's your number 1?
Wally, Eva. Wally.
Here's the thing. The 2 you have in your top 5 that I don't, I still also love. So I don't think we're that far off. I think Soul is the one big one disagreement between the 2 of us, but we have a lot of similarities. I guess Monsters Inc. the other one. And then my number 1 is Toy Story 3.
Of course.
Great movies. I love Toy Story 3. Yeah, you guys got a review of Luca. You got to walk down and an hour of us talking about our entire 24 rankings. I want to thank Mr. Nazario Montenegro for coming on, hanging out with me, talking some Pixar. This was an awesome time, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. With that being said, thank you everyone for watching, listening. Like, subscribe, comment, leave reviews, do whatever you want. Tell us what you think of Pixar. Drop your own rankings. Tell us how we're wrong, how we're right. And come back later this week. You'll get more regularly scheduled content. You'll get more reviews.
And
Peace out.
Luca.
Watch Luca.